Boom! Big beef burrito with extra beans on that bad boy with salsa and some guacamole for color. When it comes out, it should be a zombie takeout.
What's up? Welcome to episode 224 of Zombie Takeout,
Zombie takeout.
the B-movie and cult movie podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got a little bit of listener submitted. This is from Danny Meeks on Google Plus in reference to last week's episode, our Pan's Labyrinth review. He said, "By the time I got around to seeing this, the hype train had already been going full force for quite a while, so it didn't really live up to my expectations. It is a very stylish movie, though. And I can see if you saw it right out of the gate like that, or not right out of the gate, but, when it was at full steam, it might be a little bit of a letdown. I had heard about it for years, but it was obviously long since past the peak of its popularity. So I really just went in expecting great effects.
I was amazed it lived up to the hype. I think we even said that in the review, how it had so much love, and it's really hard to live up to that love.
Mhm.
And to me, it did it at least.
Yeah. All right, so on to this week's movie, which is from 2013, Movie 43, and of course the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Greenlighting. It's always okay to say no.
And also brought to you by stunt casting. Sometimes too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess this is kind of the easiest. We can't go into each individual vignette, can we? Or
Well, we will go into several of them, I'm sure. But,
all right, I'm going to do my
skip
best.
that for now.
I took pretty kick-ass notes on this, actually.
Wow, I think I have fewer notes than I normally do. I definitely have fewer. Maybe
Once I figured out what was going on by the second skit, I didn't know this was just, an anthology,
Oh, okay.
going into this. So once they were into the second one, I was like, oh, I should keep track of each one and have notes on each one. And so I went ahead with it. All right. So there is one story that ties them all together, and that is the story of the man pitching, well, at least in the American version, apparently, because I just read
I've got that.
It was different, but this is the US version. A man breaks into a studio, forces a pitch on somebody at gunpoint, and he pitches these individual stories. The first one is a date. It was a blind date, and the gag was the person had balls on his chin.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, well, and of course nobody really acknowledges it, and she's struggling with people to help her out, and it just hilarity ensued. I should say that for each one.
Well, I don't know if it really ever applied much in this movie, but
the second one is a homeschooling couple, but they are homeschooling a high school kid, and the joke is that they are giving him they're not letting him miss out on any of the misery of high school, so they're bullying their own kid. Third, we've got I guess this is pretty much the centerpiece of the film in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It is the shit skit. It is about a woman who wants her man to not shit on her, poop on her.
I was reminded of Triumph in that sketch.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Then let's see, we've got this one at the grocery store, which actually did not have much of a plot to it. It was just a checkout guy and girl kind of just going back and forth with some nonsense, and there was kind of a lust story in it.
Yep.
That never went anywhere. Then there was the fake Batman skit with where Robin, or if I should say fake Robin, is on a speed dating thing, but Batman keeps cock blocking him. And
I thought they were supposed to be the real Batman and Robin, I thought.
All the credits say fake.
Oh, okay.
They're all like fake this, fake that,
Okay.
fake Supergirl,
All right.
fake Lois Lane. Um, but yeah, Batman keeps cock blocking him, and they wind up foiling the Penguin's plot or whatever. Then we have the iBabe thing. First, it's just an ad for the iBabe, and then they actually go into the making of the iBabe and the boardroom meeting that would lead to the iBabe. We have the middle school date, which a couple middle school kids are dating,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, the girl gets her period for the first time in
Yeah.
front of guys.
Mhm.
Let's see. We have how impromptu can this get?
Mhm.
We've got the leprechaun. We have these guys that are bros, roommates. They're in a fight, but one decides to get the other a leprechaun for his birthday to find his pot of gold, and the leprechaun, of course, they get into a fight because that's what you do with little people. Then we've got a truth or dare thing that goes out of hand where they, tattoos and plastic surgery ensues, and then oh yes, then the story that connects them all wraps up in the end where they're on the lot and their guns pulled on other people and someone gets shot and then we have another skit during the credits of a cartoon cat and
Or
a
just
guy
after
who
the credits, actually.
or yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of in the middle of the credits. They
They
do
did
some credits.
they did a credit sequence with outtakes, and then they did another credit sequence after that, which is the black screen. It's a common thing actually in some anime where they'll do a credit sequence with a shot of the cast, and then there'll be another scene, and then they'll do the real credits with a black screen.
Yeah, and then so it's this thing where the cat is kind of coming in it's an animated cat and he gets in the middle of the relationship and what did I forget to say in this?
You forgot my favorite part. The only good part of the movie for me.
Yeah.
Machines, they're full of kids.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yes, you are right. That was the funniest part of the movie. But what phrase am I forgetting here? I think it's a phrase that the people making this movie forgot too.
And probably something very obvious, but go ahead.
Hilarity ensues.
Oh yes, yes, they did forget that. Just to get back to what you said about the release in other countries, the structure of the film, released in some countries, like the UK and the Netherlands, differs. Instead of the pitch, the films are connected. The vignettes, that's what's tripping me up, are
Yeah.
connected by a group of three teenagers searching for the most banned film in the world, movie 43, which will ultimately lead to the destruction of civilization. So they're looking for effectively Thanksgiving too,
Right.
which I think this could be Thanksgiving too. I think we may have accidentally seen Thanksgiving too.
Now, I mean, I don't think it get deserves the hatred that it's gotten.
Oh, I think it does, but
I mean, I'm sure there were worse films released in 2013 than this.
there are worse films. I don't think it's Showgirls bad exactly, but
Right.
I don't know about
This,
in 2013.
I mean, this had its moments. I'll
Had a
say,
few moments,
right. I was kind of keeping score as I was going along.
but it's like our title this week suggests. It's Amazon Women on the Moon for 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, 12-year-olds are too young to see it. And that gag with Hugh Jackman with the balls on his neck. Did it remind you of anything?
South Park.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Men in Black 2, the Balchinian. They actually ripped off. Well, I thought they ripped off Men in Black 2. Maybe they ripped off South Park.
South Park, it was a really funny bit where they they disguised Butters to go on a talk on Maury Povich as a man with balls on his chin, and
Okay.
he took the assumed name Napoleon Bonaparte.
Okay, that's probably. Well, I don't know which one they're ripping off, but I do know that that is the only thing from Men in Black 2, which I have seen that I recall, is the Balchinian because it was disappointingly cheap.
Well, I mean, balls on the chin. yeah, is a different connotation all itself. So
Yes, yes.
that's just the joke they were going for.
Yeah. And the homeschooling segment was just kind of sad. I think I related to the main character a bit too much.
The two skits in the beginning, I thought, were actually the most well put together ones they did out of the rest of them. Um, yeah, yeah, I think that was the thing with the homeschooling one. It was just so relatable,
Mm.
and just that his own parents were doing
Yeah,
this.
it was just sad.
It was it was the only unique skit in the entire bunch, really.
True,
Where they
true.
actually had something to say,
Hmm.
and they had a beginning, middle, and end. Same thing with the first one with the balls and the chin.
Well, I wouldn't say it was unique or original, but it did have a beginning, middle, and end.
Right. Those two in the beginning were definitely the best put together
Yeah,
skits, and maybe the third one, although it's just not my thing,
no,
the poop skit.
that may be the worst thing I have ever seen. I mean, and that's what they were going for, but it was utterly repulsive.
Right.
I did like the pitch. I thought that was clever.
I thought that was good too. I mean, it started off strong. Let me rephrase that.
Yes,
It
yes,
started off strong and
it
then it died
generated
out.
like a lot of the movie.
They didn't have a way out.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
It.
come on.
I just am reminded of Kids in the Hall. I forgot to write an ending.
Exact. There's a lot of this. After those three initial skits,
Mhm.
there's a lot of that where they just had no idea how they were getting out of it,
Yeah.
and then they just ended,
Hmm.
and it was just kind of like, well, that was a thing. I think this is probably the best thing I've seen Dennis Quaid do
Hmm.
in a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of surprised that that was him. It took me a minute to recognize him.
Well, yeah, and I like that whole, trying to dress too young for his age and
Yeah.
everything too. I thought that was all great stuff. And then when it got to the end with the whole, Mel Brooks were in a studio making the film
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
thing.
I think it dropped a little bit before that when they brought the security guard in. That's
Well, yeah, yeah. I think that that needed it needs to end earlier,
yeah.
that thing.
It's just like the Batman sketch. It started off interesting, creative, and then it just got too long-winded and directionless.
I think the Batman skit fell most victim to the stunt casting than anything else,
Mm.
because they were just piling people in,
Yeah.
and it was after a while it was just kind of like, okay, so who's going to play this guy kind of thing. And it was probably the most disappointing skit in the whole deal because they had so many people in it.
Mhm.
I mean, if you can make John Hodgman come off as
Yeah.
kind of like that wasn't that good,
Mhm.
you're doing something wrong.
Who was Batman? He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him.
You know what? I had to look that up too. I didn't really. That was the other thing. I think they needed somebody stronger for Batman.
Uh,
It was Jason Sudeikis,
okay, I probably know him by sight. The name rings
the
a bell.
I
That's what I
believe the
felt.
Meet the Millers guy.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I I didn't realize it was him. I'm not a fan of him myself, really, and I thought the skit was kind of dying, and I realized it was really him. I
Uh-huh.
mean, he needed to be a dick, but he wasn't a very convincing dick.
Hmm.
Now, Clooney had turned this down
Oh yes, yes.
for a different part, but
Mhm.
wouldn't it have been awesome
Oh,
if
absolutely.
Clooney was the fake
That
Batman?
would have been beautiful, particularly because he played Batman. In
Exactly.
the worst Batman movie, though, as we've I think talked about off camera, off air, he was the best Bruce Wayne.
Well, yeah, yeah, he was, and I don't think he was a bad Batman.
Mm.
He was just in a bad
The
Batman
film
film.
was the problem. Yeah.
In fact, I would sooner watch this movie to that Batman movie.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I'd have to do them. I don't
All
know.
I
I
have to say,
haven't seen that one in a very long time.
Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr.
Yeah, it was
Freeze.
pretty bad. I'm not.
And honestly, Uma Thurman was better in this than she was as Poison Ivy.
Yes, yes. I'm not defending. Was it Batman and Robin was the first?
Yes.
I'm not defending it. I'm just saying I don't know if it was worse than this.
The nipples on the armor is just as bad as the shit skit.
Mm. But I love the way Clooney turned them down because he was offered a role as himself, showing that he was bad at picking up women. And his response was, "No fucking way." Now I think more of them should have said this.
Right. Um, and I think there's some very weird things. I mean, I knew with that before looking at any notes or anything.
Hmm.
This was made over a long period of time.
10 years, almost 10 years. Took almost a decade to get it into production, as most studios straight out rejected the script, which was eventually picked up by Relativity for $6 million. Film was shot over a period of several years, as casting also proved to be a challenge for the producers. Some actors, including Clooney, immediately declined, while others, such as Richard Gere, attempted to get out.
Now, how do you not know what you're doing when you've seen the
That's
script?
what I'm wondering, and I didn't find any information. I didn't look too hard.
I think a lot of that was just shtick.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how they
It's,
convinced people to do this movie. Maybe there were kidnappings.
I don't think so. I think it was just either the actors, trying to make sure there's no backlash on them,
Hmm.
or just to make the movie get the movie more heat,
Maybe, yeah, yeah.
which it honestly worked because it did make the money back in the end.
Now, producer Charlie Wessler said that he wanted to make a Kentucky Fried movie for the modern age.
I think he followed the formula a little too hard.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's
He
it's really
he did
more Amazon Women to me than Kentucky Fried, because Kentucky Fried was generally shorter bits with a big centerpiece.
he needed to go a little off where
Mhm.
Kentucky Fried Movie was going,
Yeah,
or maybe he needed to follow Kentucky Fried a little more
because
and
Kentucky
go,
Fried had what was the big martial arts thing in the middle?
oh yeah, that's right. That was one thing I looked at before we did this was I had to look at what I gave Kentucky Fried Movie brains wise, and I was shocked to see I did not give Kentucky Fried Movie a 5.
Uh,
I had only given it a 4,
hmm.
and Amazon was 3.5.
This is more Amazon Women on the Moon to me because all of those sketches were more or less the same length and it was more consistent throughout in terms of time and pacing, which is what this is.
Yeah, and back to about the amount of time it took to. You know how I knew without looking at notes that this was filmed over a number of years?
I had one dead giveaway during the movie.
Oh, right,
What was yours?
the middle school
Chloe Moretz
skate.
is much younger in this than she is now.
I think this is before Kick-Ass.
Could have been.
That skit. Look at that skit.
Hmm.
Uh,
Or shortly thereafter, maybe.
McGlovin, the
Yeah.
kid that played McGlovin, is about the same age
Mhm.
that he was. He's not even younger than when he played Superbad.
Chloe Moretz looks a little older than in Kick-Ass, but not much.
Patrick Warburton looks like 10 years younger.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, he looks a lot older now than he does in this. That skit had to have been filmed. I'm thinking '07, '06.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just crazy how young they all looked, and this was supposed to be, this came out in 2013, so there's no way. I mean, I honestly think that was just something lying around
Yeah.
that they just tacked into it.
That in a better movie probably would have been left on the floor.
I think a lot of these are
Should
just
have been
things
left on the
people.
floor.
Well,
Yeah.
I think a lot of these are just things people had lying around
Uh-huh.
and they tacked together. That's my theory, at least, to it. And that's how a lot of people got into this. They were doing a favor to somebody and didn't realize what they were getting tacked
That's
into.
possible. Yeah, yeah. Incidentally, Wessler initially recruited Trey and Matt, the Fairley brothers, and the Zuckers to sign on and direct a third each.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, everybody but Peter Farrelly bailed.
Yeah. And how much better this would have been.
Oh, with those. I mean, I've never been a Fairley Brothers fan, but I love the Zuckers, and Trey and Matt have done some great stuff. So at least two-thirds of it, I would have been very happy with.
Well, and yeah, and the fairly portion would be more livable
Yeah,
if it had something, if it wasn't the strong, section.
it's at least would have been more clever than any of this.
Well, I mean, some of it would have been the same if they had like those first three skits and then stuff better as it went on. I think it would have been a greatly improved thing. The other thing that they were really missing from this movie that I think any, anthology movie should have, they did not have a running gag.
True. Yeah.
You have to have a running gag as far as I'm concerned. In
Yeah.
fact, when I did a sketch comedy show back in college and I made that declaration at the beginning, we have to have a running gag, someone just took that literally to have these two guys running throughout the entire play, the entire show.
Yeah.
So they would run through
Uh,
skits.
and we're skipping over our favorite part,
We are? Oh,
the kids in the vending machines.
yeah, that is definitely the best. That is top
And it's
notch.
a very simple,
Kids in
short, kind
machines.
of a PSA thing about, trying to tell people to be aware that, when you put money in a vending machine or get something out of a vending machine, there are kids in there who are taking your money and giving you the thing you bought.
Yeah, so be nice to all your machines.
And there are these shots of, the kids looking all sad, and it's in black and white. It was beautifully produced, hilarious bit that somehow ended up in the middle of this. And it's the shortest thing in the movie, which may be why it's the strongest.
And the other thing I was lukewarm, well, lukewarm to liking, I would say, I was almost ready to give it a point for, would be the iBabe stretch. And at first I was kind of like, okay, that's dumb or
Yeah.
goofy or whatever. And it was a short bit. Like,
Mm.
I was thankful that it was just the commercial. Oh, at least they got out. Maybe
Yeah,
they're going
yeah.
to do more of that.
Uh-huh.
And then I liked where they went with it, where they had like the boardroom of what would happen if they had people pitching this. Because I'm always thinking of that when I see something completely stupid.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what was the board meeting behind that?
I thought that it was largely kind of not exactly a ripoff, but a pale imitation of the Pet House video thing from Amazon, where she's naked in various, unexpected locations. They kind
Oh,
of played the same notes.
it did. It did play those same notes. I think the only difference was the hazard.
Yeah, yeah, and the one woman, arguing constantly about,
Yes,
how, it should not be, made to look like a naked woman. They should make it smaller, make it, like a normal MP3 player.
right. And Aziz Ansari like arguing back, oh, or, you know, teenage boys like naked women. Our research doesn't show that, sir.
And I thought the Truth or Dare date sketch had its moments.
I do too. I think that could have been something good. I'm just think what's the word I'm looking for with that? I think it went on too long. They didn't
Oh,
know when to get
yes,
out.
yes. And it had Stephen Merchant in it, so I mean that helps definitely.
I'm kind of lukewarm on Stephen Merchant.
Oh,
You
okay.
like, I mean, some things I like him in, and some things it's kind of like, well, you're not Ricky Gervais.
That's why he has Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
But I thought it had its moments. I also liked at the very end the beating of Beazle. Beazle is the cartoon cat in the last segment. And basically, the cat is a little too obsessed with his male owner, and the girlfriend gets jealous, and yada yada.
When's the last time you seen Josh Duhamel?
Mm. I know the name, but I can't really think of anything he's done.
I I had thought he had left acting actually. I think
Oh,
that was done so long ago.
uh possibly. But it culminates in the girlfriend, played by Elizabeth Banks, beating the cat down in front of this kid's birthday party.
Yeah.
And that I thought was genuinely funny. Just particularly because they think she's just beating on this innocent cat, and then they end up attacking her. That I enjoyed.
Yeah. It was one of the few curveballs you did not expect
Yes,
in
yes.
this.
Speaking of curveballs, Anton Yelchin originally played a necrophiliac in a segment called The Apprentice, directed by Steve Baker and Damon Escott. The segment was removed due to its highly offensive subject matter. Seems it would have fit right into me.
And speaking of getting out of skits, wasn't the alternate punchline that Johnny Knoxville threw in that they had in the credits, the outtakes?
Hmm.
Why did they take that out?
I think overall the outtakes were better than the movie.
Yeah, and there weren't that many of them either.
Yeah. And so I'm done with minutes.
I am too. There isn't much to go.
No. On to sequels and remakes.
No.
Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, and fortunately, there aren't any, and there will never be any, I hope. So, on to brains.
On the brains.
I was really struggling with this one. Out of the gate, like up until about halfway through, I was at zero. Then Machines Are Full of Kids happened, and that brought it a brain. And I think I think the moments in the high points, the better parts of The Truth or Dare and Beazle by it another half. I'm going 1.5.
And I'm almost with you. I'm not sure exactly why it got the hatred it did, uh, other than people just don't like that style of humor,
Mm.
which, I mean, it's there. And if you don't like that style of humor, that's fine. However, on the other hand, this style of humor is done so much better by other people
Yes, yes.
and has been done so much better.
Trey and Matt, Kentucky Fried,
Well,
Hearts
exactly.
of Amazon Women on the Moon.
Yeah. And yeah, this is missing. I mean,
Even the Fairleys, I'll say that.
the kids in the machines being good is still no Loch Ness monster.
Oh no, no. That's a brain in this movie, you know? That would have been a weak spot, a mild chuckle in any of those other two.
Right, right. And so yeah, I'm going 2.5.
All right. And what have we learned?
I gave up on filmmaking and writing much too soon.
And predictably, I learned machines. They're full of kids.
I also learned that Stephen Merchant looks like a better stereotypical Chinaman than he does an Englishman,
Yes, yes. He actually does fit that rather well.
even if he has a dick on his face.
And prosthetic breast technology has gotten much better over the years.
Yeah, we didn't even mention who was in with the skit with Steve Merchant, which
Probably
made
better.
that all, I think, which made that all the more like, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah. All right, so until next week when we'll be continuing, I don't think I mentioned this is our trilogy of hate. Movies that are generally hated, that don't have a good reputation. Next week we'll be reviewing Freddy Got Fingered.
Another example of this type of humor
Yes, yes,
being
and
done at a higher level.
you love this one. I remember liking it at least, so it'll get better than this week. Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you like the show, just spread the word. Give us some word of mouth. We of course appreciate the listeners we have, but more would be better. You also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we were going to review up through probably mid-February. The Evil
Wow.
Dead movies are the last on the list, or the last in order. Not Evil Dead, Resident Evil. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, whoa.
We've already done those.
Oh yeah.
You also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. We'll get to it. And of course, the recommendations list. This never had a snowball's
I
chance in hell.
yeah, I didn't think it did.
Even before I knew anything about it, just on reputation, I knew it couldn't have had a chance.
Oh, you never know. I
It's
mean,
possible. Yeah, I said that last week. It could be another Dude, Where's My Car or Last Action Hero, but I wasn't hopeful. You can also email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1, or for the alphanumerically challenged,
they can go fuck themselves.
414-68-9861. Always
In
remember
the
that you'll
ear.
always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee. Just watch out for the fan. And of course, until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there
There
you
you
are.
are.
Where did I lose you, Griffin?
Everywhere. You lost me everywhere.
The structure of the film, released in some countries, like the UK and the Netherlands, differs. Instead of the pitch, the film instead of take it again.